everyone, let me introduce our team. We are from 4th group and this is me, Putri Ovalia Agustina, as the first speaker and as the moderator, and this is my partner.
My name is Elsha Indayani as the second speaker.
And in here we will explain about the material, sampling, quantitative and qualitative research. Okay, for the first material is purpose and stages of sampling. Sampling aims to assist researchers in overcoming the limitation that researchers can encounter in the field, such as if the population is too large or the range is too wide so that it is not possible for us to collect data on the entire population. And for the second is constraint in terms of limited manpower, time, and cost. And for the third is there is an initial assumption that the whole population is uniform so that it can be represented by several samples that we will take. And for the next material is the general steps in the sampling technique. For the first is defines the population to be observed, and for the second defines a sample frame and a set of all events that can occur. And for the third is determining the right sampling technique or method. And for the fourth is conduct sampling or data collection. And for the last or number 5 is doing a re-examination of the sampling process. Okay, that's all for the material. For the next presenter will be given by Elsha Indayani. For Elsha Indayani, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for Putri Ovalia Agustina. And here I would like to give to you the material about kinds of sampling technique. Literally, in kinds of sampling technique, is there a qualitative and quantitative? And for the qualitative is non-probability, and for quantitative is probability. For here, I would like to share to you about quantitative sampling. In the quantitative sampling, it is a probability. What is probability? Of course, probability sampling is a type of sampling technique that takes samples randomly, and this method gives all members of the population the possibility or the same opportunity to be selected sample. Okay, there are several models or other types of random techniques. Namely, for the first is simple random sampling. This simple random sampling is the simplest sampling technique regardless of the status among the members of the population. There are several models or other types of random techniques, and this is namely for the first is simple random sampling. And for this simple random samplings is the simplest sampling techniques regardless of the status among the members of the population. You have to make a list of each member to be analyzed and be taken as a sample member. We will analyze the population of Islamic banking at I have an example that from IAIN Cirebon. For example, here there are 100 students for a list of 100. The number of students will be made. Then we will choose 40 out of 100 students who can use a lottery and can be randomized using Excel. This type of sampling is done randomly through simple methods such as lottery or using a random number approach. The advantages of using this method are that it can reduce bias or in favor of certain members of the population and can detect standard errors in research. Meanwhile, the weakness in using this method is the low guarantee that the selected sample can be representative or can represent the intended population. And for the next is I have a stratified random sampling. For the stratified random sampling or the strata random sampling means that we will pay attention to the strata or levels in each member. The first way, the researchers determines that how many will take from each semester level. For example, here 60% of 140 students will be taken. We will take 60% of semester 5, 60% of semester 6, 60% of semester 7, 60%. This proportion is the same 60%. If the proportion is the same in every demand, then this is proportional stratified random sampling. The second way, for example, the researcher assumed that in semester 6 only 20 students will be very few. If the researchers only takes 60%, then the researchers decided to take all members of semester 6, so that the semester 6 will be taken 100%, and semester 5 will be taken 60%, and semester 7 will be taken 49%. The total is 84 students. So the proportion are different. So it's he enters disproportionate sampling when the researchers has determined how many members of the population to be taken. The population was taken by soaking. For example, in semester 5, 27 students were taken by immersion. Semester 6 was taken 12 ways, and semester 7 was taken by soaking 45 students. And the next is I have a random sampling by area or region, or we can also call cluster random sampling. In this cluster sampling, there are a sampling area. The sampling is doing if the population is spread over various areas, be it is district or city or province or larger in country. The sampling is doing in two stages. The first is to determine the sampling area. Then the next step is to determine customer or resident directly from the location that has been selected as the sampling area. I have an example here. We will research Islamic bank in Ponorogo, meaning that all Islamic banks in Ponorogo will be the research population. First, we make a list and we make a map of the area. For the first is Islamic bank in Ponorogo, whatever and wherever. Secondly, we determine how many population areas we will choose, and we will enter. In this first stage, there is a population cluster. First, we determine the areas Islamic bank number 1 mapped with Islamic bank number 2 and 3 with Islamic bank number 4 and the other. So on, if we have determined how many areas we will examine, then the researchers set two areas to be sampled areas. Now in these two areas, there are Islamic bank number 5 with 6 and Islamic bank number 11 with 12. If the same area has been determined, the next step is to determine the subject of each sample area, who are the subject to be researched, which will be chosen randomly. And for the next is systematic random sampling. Systematic sampling is using sampling in this way is carried out of systematically. First, the researchers must make a list who are the members of the population. Then each member is given a number. The next step is the researchers determines who is the first member of the population to be selected in this picture. Random population number 2 becomes a person. The first one is selected if he understands that he will take every member of the population systematically. After number 2, the researchers decided to take number 5, number 8, and number 11. This means that it is taken by jumping 3 every jump 3, then it will be selected as a sample. Take the odd number, take the even number, take in multiples of 5, and so on. That's the sampling technique using probability. Maybe that's all from my material, and I give it back to moderator.
Okay, for the next material this is qualitative sampling. There is non-probability, and the non-probability sampling technique is the opposite of the probability sampling technique. This technique takes samples by not giving equal opportunities or opportunities for each element or member of the population selected to be the sample. And this is for the first, there is quota sampling. Quota sampling is when participants are selected from pre-identified groups. This is a way to get information across different types of participants who may have different perspectives related to your research question. Okay, for the next, this is snowball or chain reverse sampling. Snowball sampling is when a respondent refers you to other respondents. This is a great way to find hidden populations. It also can be used in a network analysis. And there is purposeful sampling, or also called purposive, is the most common, and there are many different subtypes, and it means making a plan for how your sample will fit with your research design and study design. And several types of purposeful sampling require some advanced knowledge of how your population is distributed. And for the last, there is maximum variation sampling. Similar to quota sampling, this type of sampling tries to maximize perspectives by selecting participants with a wide variety of characteristics related to your research question. And that's all for me. Thank you for your attention for our group. If you have question, you can drop your question on the comments below. Okay, that's all for our group. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.